This is the Aftermarket Radio Network. So we're back here in Tampa at the Institute's Summit. We're in St. Petersburg. Carm, you get a chance to go to all these exotic places. Being a podcaster is like being on vacation. Well, I haven't seen the sun, although I hear it's out there. The big yellow thing in the sky.
It is out today.
Good to see you, Anthony. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate this. We appreciate Cecil and Kent having us out. We're exposed to so many great speakers. I mean, I don't know about you, but they've been on fire.
They've been great. Shasta, the last one, I think everybody's been great, but I think the last one was the best. Such a topic that I never thought we'd actually talk about. I think it resonated more with everybody. That's something that we all struggle with, the interpersonal relationships we have at work and the culture in our workplace. It's become, we're not only talking about it more and more these days, since COVID, it's become such a huge part of what makes a business great or not.
When she talked, the talk was about friendships, and I never thought it could be so deep and expansive, and we only got 1 hour of it.
Yeah.
And to teach the shop owners that were in that room how to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And bring that to the team, because we all want friends in our lives, relationships in our lives. And how do you do it inside of a rough and rugged bunch of guys?
Right. We're all a bunch of men. We don't have feelings.
Manly men.
That's it. We don't have feelings, and we can't talk about our feelings at work. We can't tell each other we're lonely. What is that? You can't do that. Leave that at home. You can't do that.
Hey, plan to be at Apex 2023, October 31st through November 2nd. Apex will build upon the incredible success of Joe's Garage, a full 10-bay working environment. If you earn your living in the auto service aftermarket, then Apex is for you. Hey, did you know that Napa Tracks has on-site training plus 6 days a week support? It all starts when a local representative meets with you to learn about your business and how you run it. After all, it's your shop, so it's your choice. Let us prove to you that Trax is the single best shop management system in the business. Find Napa Tracks on the web at napatracs.com. You're a member of this organization as far as having them be a coaching organization for your success.
Correct. So I'm not currently in a gear.
No, you're not in a group.
I'm going to be. I have the onboarding stuff in my email. I just haven't got around to it.
All right.
So I am going to be in a group after this event. They're going to assign me to a group. But I just finished I believe it was 3 years or 30-month one-on-one with Cecil.
Yeah.
Completely changed our business for the better. If we had all day, I could even start to talk about it. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Anthony, was he tough on you?
He was. But you know something?
You needed it. You needed
it,
huh?
You need. I don't need someone to tell me how great my shop is. I mean,
So before we turn on the mics, John Constantine, who's here in the studio, a friend of mine in Buffalo, and Anthony and Anthony was he was doing the episode, right? And I had to stop him. And I says, wait a minute, this is all just too good, because he was talking about his transformation over the years and the things that he didn't necessarily know that brought you to the position of profitability and probably to be a much better leader.
Yeah. So one thing that I was speaking with him when you walked away, I always had this mindset that I need to focus on 3 major things. I need to focus on my customer experience. So how are my customers or my potential customers going to view my business? How are they going to see value? What's going to make them want, with all the choices out there, what's going to make them want to come to my shop? So I have to focus on that. I've got to focus on my product. I have to have the best product. It has to be consistent. It has to be perfect every single time. When it's not, that's where the staff comes in. We've got to own it. We've got to make up for it. The honesty, transparency, the integrity, the staff I knew had to be on a level unlike everything else out there. So we focused on a really good culture, a really good staff, surrounding ourselves with just genuinely good people that want to do a good job and provide that exceptional customer experience. So I always thought that if you did those things, that's what you have to focus on as a business owner, as a leader, and the money will be in the bank. It's not true. It's not true. It doesn't make your business successful. You have to understand the numbers. And for years, I couldn't understand why we were doing all those things right, but God, we just weren't profitable. We were doing okay. We were hanging on. I started to actually believe that, hey, it's a tough business. This is about as good as it gets. It's just not a real profitable business, And I started to believe that. And then I started to see the light, if you will.
Hanging on. Well, that's an interesting business strategy. And so you're on your way home. You're going back to family, I imagine?
Of course.
You're just hanging on.
Yeah.
And you were probably saying prayers to yourself at 2 a.m. and not telling mama that you're just hanging on.
There was a lot of sleepless nights and a lot of sacrifices made that, as the leader, you've got to do it. But, I'm like, well, my payday will come down the road.
Oh, I see. Okay. So that's the dream part. That someday.
Yeah, someday.
That someday dream?
Someday,
yeah, okay.
Exactly. Someday this is gonna work out.
And after 13 years in business, which I think you said you're 13?
Almost. April 1st will be 13
okay,
years.
We'll back up to 3 years you've been hanging out with Cecil and had a coach. So 10 years into the business.
Correct.
You got sick and tired of hanging on.
Yeah. I need some help. And it was a fellow shop owner who owns a shop maybe 6 minutes from mine, successful shop. He's been in business a long time, great guy. And he said, hey, I've got a WorldPac Smart Group coming up meeting. And have you heard of Cecil Bullard? And I said, yeah, I have. I've seen he does I get the ads for his classes all the time. And it was never something that I did. And I said, you know what? And I listened to Jim Piver from Elite Auto Repair. And he said, this group has been unbelievable for me. So I said, yeah, you know what? There's no excuses. I can't keep making excuses. I could find a million other things to do that weekend when they were meeting. But I said, you know what? Let me do it. So I did. I got to meet the other people in the group. I got to meet Cecil. I went into it thinking I had a pretty good handle on things. And I very, very quickly fell into that valley of despair where I finally realized what I didn't know and how far behind I was. Still confident in my product, still confident that I had the right facility, the right image, brand is on point. Our staff, I was convinced we had all the right pieces, but I was also came to realize that as a leader, ignoring a lot of the back end stuff, ignoring the numbers, I was really doing a disservice to the business.
I want to concentrate on the individual who was 6 minutes away. He reached out to you, or did he hear of the fact that you maybe wanted to go to that next level from someone else? Because there's a message here. There's a message of connectivity. There's a message of helping each other. And I've always been a big fan of someone in my market just down the road who you can tell is struggling just in a lot of cases, just from the outside or things that you hear and say, knock on the door. Hey, let's go have some coffee. Hey, let's talk. We're both independents. Yeah, you think we're competitors, but we're not. It's really the dealer. And maybe there's things we can do to help each other out. We don't have to share trade secrets, but maybe there's some strategic things we can work on. And explain to me exactly how that happens so that maybe we can get people to repeat that.
Yeah. So he didn't reach out to me because he knew I needed help or anything like that. I had known him for years. When I got my first car way back, my high school days, got my first car, his previous location, his shop had been the one that serviced it. So I knew him as a customer years ago. Top-notch shop. So, we stayed in contact over the years, and we've always agreed, hey, there's so much honest work to go around. There are so many broken cars out there. We're not competing for each other or for each other's business. We're in competition with ourselves, and there's enough honest work to go around. And, like they said today earlier, rising tide will raise all ships. Right. So, when we see shops around us doing better, it lifts us all up. We can all do better. So we've always been eager to help each other, whether it's borrowing tools or just, firing ideas off one another. And I think he could probably, I don't remember the exact conversation, but I do remember I was in my car, and I think he could probably hear the hesitation in my voice, and just kind of I think he could feel where I was in my frustration, just kind of like complacent in my frustration. And I think that he probably recognized that, because I'm sure, at some point he was there. And, I'm in a place now where if I feel like I'm talking to somebody and they're in that comfortable frustration, I'm eager to say, hey, you got to check these guys out, or you got to do something. So that's
vocal tone, body language, all of that tells stories. If you're an observer of people, it doesn't take much to figure that out. So you go to this class, and you said just a few minutes ago, I had no idea how far behind I was. Because you're getting all this incoming, and I'm sure Cecil covered bang, 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 bang. And you say, it's like a machine gun firing at you. And again, so that we can help people understand what's the next step. Some people are so overwhelmed, they say, forget it. I can't do this. I won't do this. I don't want to put myself out to be vulnerable at all. And I guess I'm just going to wait, just get by, and just maybe sink into oblivion someday. I have no wealth to build and nothing to give in legacy, which is all the wrong things. Please, everyone, understand that. And so what were your next steps?
So the overwhelming part was just, hearing everybody talk about certain KPIs, and I say KPI now. I didn't even know I'm like, what's KPI? I didn't know what that was. Key performance indicator. And they're talking about, gross profit per hour sold. And I knew average repair order. I knew that one. I knew mine wasn't great. But again, hey, well, we'll just service more cars.
It's 300. So what's the big deal?
Yeah, exactly. And then hearing these guys talk about, 500, 700, 900. And I'm like, really? Wow. Hearing them talk in confidence just about and understanding not just what those numbers were, but what they meant. And it was extremely overwhelming. And then I had a private talk with Cecil, and he was like, this is something that seems, you're at the bottom of a mountain and this seems impossible. But I promise you that if you follow the right steps and we break it down into small goals, and you do them one by one, some are going to have an immediate, quick, high return. Some aren't. Some are going to take some time, and some are going to be harder than others, and some are going to have just small positive impacts. But you chip away at them one by one, and before you know it, you can be a top performing shop, and you'll be talking to me about your second location, which is one of the reasons I'm here. We're interested in doing a second location.
Well, you should.
3 years ago, I didn't think it was possible.
You should. I think I read somewhere, ARO from 300 to 800.
You're being fair. No, ARO, when I first met Cecil, it was like 287.
That's close. That's 300. Well, we'll take that. Okay.
Appreciate that. It was low.
I love this guy. I mean, you are, everything matters. I understand. Yep. And so you took those incremental steps with Cecil, and he was your accountability partner. And when it was time to do this, and he got on the phone with you next month, you did it.
Yeah. You need somebody to hold you accountable. And well, at least I do. I'm the type of person where, hey, when I get the time, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. I'm gonna. You're not.
You're just lying to yourself.
I'm lying to myself. And I need somebody to hold me accountable. You tend to do the things, you tend to accomplish the goals and do the things that interest you. And for me, I've always been kind of a hands-on technical guy. So that stuff hasn't really been an issue, but the numbers side of it, understanding the business and really committing to making these small changes, is what I needed. And somebody to not just hold me accountable, but say, look, I'm the professional. This is what I do. Trust the process and trust that what's the worst that can happen. Give you a quick example. One of the things that we were doing that was killing us was waiting appointments. So we always did waiting appointments. Our schedule was full of waiting appointments. Why? Because that's what people wanted. That's what our customers wanted.
Wait a minute. I've seen your place. Please go to protechservice.com and look at this facility. It looks like a high-end dealership. And so people walk in and say, I'm going to wait because
they love it.
Because
they love it.
It looked like it. That's what I did at the dealer for the first 2 years.
People would say, I don't, 3-4 hours. Yeah, no, that's fine. I'll just sit and I'll do some work. You guys have Wi-Fi, coffee bar, snack.
Turn it all off.
Yeah. Oh man. So we did a ton of waiting appointments and people loved it. They'd come in, they'd pop their laptop open, their car would be done for 2 hours. They'd still be sitting there doing work and on the phone and everything else. And, so we thought that we can't take that away. We can't force people to drop their cars off. And Cecil said, well, you got to come up with a plan. You got to offer something else, maybe, loaner cars or give them rides, but get the car dropped off. You're pulling technicians off of repair work to go and pull in a car to do an oil service at say 1 p.m. or 10 a.m. And that person's in the waiting room. You're not going to have time to put together an estimate. Yeah. The tech doesn't have time to properly go through the car. You're doing a disservice to the customer. Again, it's for the right. We're doing the waiting appointment because we think that we know that that's what they want. And we think, well, doing what they want is what's right.
Easier to manage the workflow, right?
Easier to manage, I guess, because we've just got a schedule and we're just
cars you don't have that, if you will, red light flashing over that set of keys or that bay or that technician saying, waiter.
Oh, yeah. Having the time to do things right and not filling the schedule. That was something that took a lot of trust. And I had to trust in Cecil and I had to trust in the process and say, what we're doing now isn't working. It took me a little while, but it didn't take a whole lot of convincing. By the time I sought his help, I knew that what we were doing wasn't working. So I knew we needed to make changes and I solicited his help to make changes. And it's quite an investment. And I said, I need to trust the process. I need to trust him the way that I want my customers to trust me. I need to trust him. And I did. And we made these changes and made the analogy earlier to a fellow shop owner. I was like, it's like standing, I've never skydived, but I could imagine the hardest part is that door opens up and you're standing there waiting to jump. Once you jump, you're probably fine. But
wait a minute. The analogy is you take the leap.
Take the leap.
The leap you've been denying yourself to take because I can't afford it.
Yeah.
And then people keep telling you I can't afford not to.
Right.
You take the leap. And in my analogy is the coach, the networking group is the parachute.
Well, the networking group's probably the parachute, and then Cecil's the guy that behind you that kicks you out the door.
Okay. Well, I can't wait to tell him that. If you went to Apex 2022, then you realized the incredible commitment that Apex has to the service professional. Joe's Garage is your place with 10 working bays as you experienced real live working conditions. Also, the best tech companies from tools and repair to management software had their latest and greatest for you. You also attended technical and business management training with the industry's best and brightest. Now, work is underway to make next year's Apex 2023 have even more product demos, trending training, marketing, and social media support to help you grow your sales and profits. Remember, if you earn your living in the aftermarket, then Apex is the expo for you. Continue listening as we bring you the latest from Apex 2023. Save the date, October 31st through November 2nd, 2023. Hey, let's face it, your shop management system is the single most important tool in your shop, period. NapaTrax has made selecting the right shop management system easy by offering the industry's best, most comprehensive SMS. Now, it all starts when a local representative meets with you to learn about your business and how you need to run it. After all, it's your shop, so it's your choice, and having local representation is a huge plus. Customizing tracks to your business, whether you're a one-person shop or a large multi-bay or multi-location company, a representative consults with you to help optimize your shop's workflow, efficiency, and profitability. Trax always has the flexibility to do business how you need to do it, which means it can also grow as your business grows. And unlike the other guys, will be there for you after installation with the best training and support in the business. Yes, a learning management system tailored to each role in your company. Simply put, Trax was designed and built for shop owners just like you. Visit us on the web at NapaTrax, that's NapaTracs.com.
A lot of the stuff that we were talking about was things that I wanted to do. One of the things he said to me the first time he came out to my shop, he said, you got a lot of work to do. I'm going to write a plan for you, a success plan. I'm going to outline all the reasons you're terrible and you don't know what you're doing.
That would be him.
He didn't pull any punches. He doesn't hold back.
Right.
And again, that's what you need. And he said, a couple of things you got to do right away. All right. You got to stop doing waiting appointments. And I said, okay. So we called everyone in the office and all the advisors, and we said, guys, no more waiting appointments.
What did they say? Did they look at you as if you were nuts?
No, because I think they
were ready for it.
They could probably see on my face that, they could probably see the fear in my eyes, but I think they all knew that we needed to make changes too. And we didn't want to do waiting appointments. We just thought we had to.
I see.
We just didn't think we'd lose every customer we have if we tell them they can't wait anymore.
But the bottom line, Anthony, is they got behind you.
They did. They committed.
And for all of these next steps, even though they may have had some input, hey, what if we're going to do this, but what if we did it this way? Were you encouraging engagement into the changes you were making?
That day, we made the first couple of changes. We immediately saw results. And I think that was something that I wasn't expecting. Typically, when you start to make some changes, if you're dieting or you start working out, something like that, it takes some time. You're going to put in a lot of work before you start to see any results from it. The idea is you need to work at it long enough to when you start seeing results, then it makes sense. This was like right away. And I'll give you a funny story. So we had this customer that in our industry is just an awful customer, nice guy.
And you didn't fire him.
Bob.
You didn't fire him.
I had not fired this customer.
Right.
Nice guy. His name Bob. He'd come in once every couple of months and get an oil service in his car, his daughter's car, whatever. And he'd always make a waiting appointment for a Saturday. And I should back up and say one of the other changes that Cecil told us to do was close Saturdays.
And did you?
We did. For 3 years, my general manager, Nick, and I went back and forth. Got to close Saturdays, but we can't do that. We run the number. We're trying to figure it out like we want to, but we can't do it. Once Cecil said you got to close Saturdays, you don't have to twist our arm for that one. Done. And I think right away, whatever we had scheduled for the next couple of Saturdays, I think we kept, but I'm pretty sure effective immediately, we were pretty much closed Saturdays. This was also around the COVID time. So we were able to kind of hide it in that. Businesses were changing hours and stuff anyways. So it actually made it easier for us. But anyway, so those were the two big changes, and also raising labor rate. So those were the three: raise labor rate, close Saturdays, and stop doing waiting appointments. So literally the first phone call we got after that conversation in the office was from this customer, Bob, who was a Saturday morning oil change only customer. And our service advisor said to him, Bob, we're not going to be open Saturdays anymore, and we're not doing waiting appointments. You're going to have to drop it off with us. And, I wasn't, of course, on the phone, but, he grumbled and wasn't happy about that. I didn't care. This guy never bought anything besides an oil change or a state inspection, not an air filter, not a belt, not a brake job, nothing. He grumbled to the advisor and he said, fine, I'll drop it off. He picked a date. And just before they got off the phone, he said, you know what? Since I'm dropping it off and it's going to be there, why don't you guys just do the work you recommended last time? It needs a bunch of stuff. It's like right there. It was like, you know what? That's it. Cecil's onto something. This guy knows what he's doing. If I didn't know before that point, that's when I realized this is good.
Some of the ripe fruit fell from the tree.
It did.
How
it
cool
sure
is
did.
that?
And
Wow.
it did not take long. So that happened, and it was a sign that we're on the right track. The whole point of that story was making that initial jump, that initial leap to go flip some pretty big switches. Closing Saturday, thinking we're going from 6 days to 5 days. We're screwed. Doing that, stopping the waiting appointments, and then immediately increasing our labor rate. I'm thinking like, this is going to be tough. Once we did that, we saw immediate results. All the changes we made after, as soon as we decided this is what we need to change, we just did it. Once in a while, wouldn't call it pushback, but we'd have some guys question things. Hey, why are we doing this? And they just genuinely wanted to understand, and that's good. And we want everyone involved in it.
Technicians, you kept them whole?
Yeah.
And they probably came up to you and said, thank you for giving me another day in my life.
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't ready to do side work. They just wanted to spend time, family, hobbies, right?
Yeah. And what's better than having 2 days off in a row?
Are you kidding me? I'm waiting for that. Tracy just won't give me Saturdays.
You got to do it.
You know, Saturday like that Saturday.
No. I don't know if anyone heard that, but I just got an ultimatum. If she doesn't work Saturdays, I don't work Saturdays. Okay, all right, we're going to figure that out. What do you love to do in the business? What's your power?
So I'm a tough customer in my personal life outside of work. I'm a tough customer. I'll pay a premium. All right. If it's an expensive restaurant, if it's an expensive hotel, if you're an HVAC company and you're going to service the air conditioning system at my house, I'll pay top dollar for that service.
White glove service.
For white glove service.
Right.
But I want perfection. I want to feel important. I want to feel like my business matters. I want to feel like if you make a mistake, you're going to own it. And we all make mistakes. In my business, every day, we all make mistakes. There's days we simply let customers down. We simply drop the ball. We forget to put the keys in the car when we park it, and the customer goes to pick up after hours and their keys aren't where they're supposed to be. It happens. And it happens in every shop. The difference is how you address that head on and make it right for the customer. Because I'm a tough customer, I know I want customers like me. I want people, when they pick their car up, they don't want a fingerprint on the wheel. If we do a tire rotation, we didn't get the wheels dirty, but we touched the wheels doing a rotation, and now there's fingerprints on the wheels. Those wheels need to be wiped down. I'm the kind of guy, I'll pay more for the tire rotation because I know you're going to wipe the wheels down versus, a budget place where they're the cheapest guy in the block, and now I've got to deal with fingerprints all over my wheels or stains on my carpet, stuff like that. So I think because I'm a kind of a picky customer, I've got an eye for that. And I've been able to really put myself in the customer's shoes and say, from a customer standpoint, what can they expect from our shop and what should they expect? And the expectation has been pretty low because there's so many shops that for years weren't doing it right. And it just became this. So it's funny. We talked about waiting appointments. We had the hardest time getting people to show up on time for appointments. And I'm like, there's got to be a reason for this. And you start thinking about it. For years, people would make an appointment at the dealership. I've got a 1:30 appointment. That car wouldn't come in at bay till 3:30. People got conditioned. These customers thought that, well, they're not going to be on time. I made an 8 o'clock appointment. I'll show up at 9 o'clock. They'll get it in. No, 8 o'clock. If you had an appointment, I've got a guy with a clipboard ready to take that car in. The expectations in our industry from a customer standpoint, and this is back when we first started.
Sloppy.
It was sloppy. People expected that. People expected that they were going to have to, if there was an issue, they were going to have to go complain online, go call a 1-800 number for customer service at a whatever. And they were going to have to jump up and down and make a big scene to be able to have somebody step up and say, you know what, we messed up.
It's respect. It's giving you respect. If you say 9, you mean 9 and not take advantage of that. I love what you said. I love your passion. But as the owner of the shop who should not be on that counter, who should not be on that floor, how are you observing that your passion for white glove service is getting done?
Well, a couple of ways. I'm there every day. I do pay attention. I'm not involved in and I purposely stay out of anything that I don't need to be involved in. And I'm not an absent owner. I'm not somebody that runs from anything like that. But I believe that my people have the brains, the knowledge, the ability, and the moral compass needed to do the right thing. And they don't have to get my approval. If they've got an unhappy customer in front of them, they don't have to say, let me talk to the owner and figure this out. They have the ability to make it right. If it needs to get to me, it will, and I'm always available. But the point is, I don't need to be. I don't want an environment where I've got a bunch of guys that are afraid to make a call to make a customer happy. I'm not there every day. I usually am, but when I'm not there, I'm here at this conference. I haven't had a single phone call from the shop.
Amen.
And not because I don't want to be bothered. I called yesterday just to check in. I'm like, what's going on, guys?
You don't need me.
Yeah.
Give me something to solve.
Yeah. But it's great because they're all empowered. They know the vision. They know what we expect and they know the standard. And we've set the bar high. We don't accept anything less. And when we do slip up, we make up for it. We've had to make those phone calls. I've had to call a customer and say, hey, your car fell off a lift, or, hey, a lot of guys don't want to admit that stuff, but hey, we've had oil outs. I've been on my hands and knees with my general manager scrubbing somebody's driveway more than once, more than I'd like to admit. It's been a long time, which is great. We've come a long way, but every shop makes mistakes. Everybody has had an oil out, an oil filter that leaks, a new tires on a car. One of them goes flat the next day. There was an issue with it. We've all had that happen, but it's all in how you make up for it. That's your opportunity to get a customer for life. People remember good service. They remember bad service. And I think that's one of the most memorable things is when you take a situation where you've let somebody down and you completely turn that around and stand up and say, hey, we screwed up, but don't worry. We're already fixing it. This is what we're doing. This is how it's going to be. And from now on, this is how we're going to make sure it doesn't happen again. And people are like, oh, okay.
Let me just talk to my listener directly. Have you noticed that Anthony Bodine is being as vulnerable as he possibly can, but maybe 3 years ago, he would never admit he was struggling. And now he saw the light and he's made all these changes and he's seen this incredible change in his business and he's here willing to say, yeah, I wasn't perfect. And that the encouragement that we've had for the last almost 8 years doing this podcast, 1,100 episodes, is to tell these kinds of stories and to obviously advance the aftermarket and get the struggling people to come on board and realize that. And again, I go back to, I believe that every single shop in the U.S., North America, in fact, should have a business coach or be in some type of group. So thank you for sharing that. I want to change gears. Thank you for everything you said.
Sure.
When I sat down with Anthony, I said, so you're a Euro shop. And he looks at me and he smiles and he goes, we got you. And I go, what do you mean? So explain.
So we've always been just general service, pretty much every make and model. We don't service anything antique or big trucks or anything like that, but just pretty much everything. We do quite a bit of fleet work, just your average everyday vehicles. But we also have serviced a good amount of Euro vehicles. And I'm an enthusiast. I always have been.
All right.
BMW guy. I'm passionate about cars. So we decided, and again, after working with Cecil and starting to really dig into the numbers, and one of the KPIs we're always looking at is average repair order. Average repair order on European cars tends to be much higher. We see that they go a little longer between services, but when they need service, they're, quite a bit more profitable. We want to capture more European vehicles out there. And we don't want to specialize and just become a service facility for only a couple of brands. We still want to service everything, but we want to dig a little deeper and a little more into the European cars. We can pull from a wider radius. We can get people to travel a little further for some of the specialty type cars like that. Because there's still a lot of shops that shy away from them. So what we did is we brought in got some help from a marketing company.
Yeah, you rebranded to the fact that the first thing I saw on your homepage was that you were a Euro shop.
So we're trying, and I'm still not convinced that that's the right way to do it because I don't want people to see that and think that we don't service, Chevy Tahoes and Ford Transit vans and stuff like that, because that stuff we service and we like servicing that stuff.
Well, turn that on for 3 or 4 days. once every month and just wean it in. But I happen to be there. And I said, wow, you're a beautiful Euro shop. No, it's brilliant. It's really a brilliant way to make a huge marketing shift. But to your point, you don't want people that have America's Camry to not want to come there.
Right. And the way I look at it is you look at the average household and the cars in the driveway, and you have some people where every car in the driveway is a Toyota or Subaru. I mentioned those two brands because to me, those are the ones when someone has a Subaru, they're typically, the spouse drives a Subaru, the kids start to drive them, and they drive those forever. They're great cars, and people that buy them typically are happy with them and keep buying them. But then a lot of households will have a mix. Dad's got an F-150, mom's got a Mercedes SUV, and the son's got a Dodge Charger. There's a wide mix of vehicles in the driveway. We want to be able to service all of them. Again, me as a customer, I don't want to have to go to 3 different places. Again, I bring up the analogy with the HVAC stuff at my house. I don't want to have one company service my air conditioning and then I have to call somebody else to come service the heat furnace. I want one company to do both of them. It's easier for me. I don't have to think about it. Same thing with the vehicle service. I want to be able to service within reason. There's certain things we don't get. We don't do antique cars. We don't do, big heavy duty trucks or anything like that. But we want to be able to service everything in the driveway.
Your view of consolidation that's going on.
Since COVID, everything is so volatile right now. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but everything is so, one day it looks one way and all of a sudden it looks another way. And there's so many factors. We've had supply issues and people all of a sudden they're going to keep their cars longer and then new car price is going to drop. What's the used car market going to do? There's so many factors influencing it. My commitment to it is just managing what I have control over. And, as consolidation happens, I think that it's going to affect the guys that are where I was a few years ago, kind of just hanging on or thinking, I kind of don't love this business. If I have an opportunity to get out, I'm just going to get out. But I think for us, no matter what happens, I don't think that we're going to wake up 10, 15 years from now and we're all going to get on some type of a rail system and hitch a ride to work that way. I think that the private transportation or the private means of transportation, whether 20, 30 years from now we're flying around in drones, whether it's electric cars, hydrogen, nuclear, no matter what, people are still going to have a driveway with some type of vehicle in it. And I don't know what that's going to look like, but I know that Protech's going to service whatever those vehicles are. We're going to service those 15 years from now, 20 years from now. And we're just going to keep adapting. We're going to stay on top of the technology. That's our commitment to it. I'm not afraid of it. It's one of those things. It's going to toss up the industry a little bit.
Bring it on, huh?
Yeah, bring it on. I'm going to focus on the things I can control.
Yeah, right. Don't let it get you down, but be a player when it's time to be a player.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing up drones. I can't remember how old I was, but I was a little thing, and I invented in my mind a flying car. And I couldn't stop telling my dad and my mom and the whole world about this flying car. My dad finally had to calm me down and brought me to a friend of his and says, tell Bob. And I had to tell someone else besides family. And he goes, what a great idea, Carm. Maybe, who knows, someday.
Someday.
And so before I leave this earth, I want to ride in a flying car.
You got to make that happen. All your connections. There's got to be somebody that can make that happen.
Yeah, I know, huh? All my people's in Detroit. You got any concerns about your market with these kind of tech layoffs going on? What goes on in Rhode Island?
There's a shortage of technicians. The workplace is changing. The demands of the workforce is changing. It was brought up today at one of our meetings about we're never going to be a work from home. Well, as far as I can see, right. Who knows, but it doesn't look like we're ever going to be a work from home type place. I don't think that we're going to be replaced by robots.
Well, I think we're going to do service advising from home.
Wearing our slippers.
Yeah, in our little basement service advisor office with all the cameras in front of us and the VoIP phones.
I don't know. I think that people, and again, I could be walking this back sooner than I think, but my feeling is that people like dealing with people. When it comes to something as expensive and as important as servicing your vehicle, you've spent, they're not getting any cheaper.
Yeah.
So people are still spending a lot of money on their vehicle. The repairs are getting more and more expensive. I think that people want a brick and mortar place with real people that actually care handling that for them. I don't think that's going anywhere.
I agree with you. My idea about the whole service advisor thing that's virtual is only for a support reason. You're growing, but you found an opportunity to equip someone from home, and you still have a couple of people on your counter, but they could be doing estimates. There's a lot that a backup person can handle. The phone's going to ring 3 or 4 times. The backup person answers it and can see through, video and what's going on with the phone on how they can support it. I think it's going to be a specialty, high-tech type of support. And it doesn't mean that person works for you. It could be a service.
Yeah, almost like an answering service.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, how do you recharge, Anthony?
That's a good question. It's tough these days. I've got 2 young kids at home. My daughter just turned 5. My son will be 2 in April. It's been tough. One of my hobbies is I got into woodworking a couple of years ago.
Okay.
So as I said, I'm a car guy. I've always been a car guy. So my escape was always, Saturday, Sunday at the shop working on my own stuff. I just can't anymore. I live about 20 minutes from my shop. And now with a wife and 2 young kids, I can't feel good about working all week, Monday through Friday, and then spending Saturday and Sunday at the shop, tinkering on my own stuff. It just doesn't interest me anymore. I would like to do that stuff, but what I want more is to have a good home life and happy family and spend time with my family. So I've had to kind of find things to scratch my itch that don't involve me wrenching on a car. One of those things has been cooking. So I actually, a few years ago, started cooking, and yeah.
What do you make? What's your signature dish?
Oh, I got a few. I make just any kind of a pan sauce, chicken marsala, chicken piccata. Yeah, my wife loves that.
How about a really quick bolognese? Can you do that?
I can do a bolognese. A really quick bolognese isn't usually as good as a slow cooked bolognese.
Okay, and I agree with you. Being Italian, but we want to maybe plan an Eastern New York road trip. We can always get over to your house and have pasta.
Yeah, I can do a quick marinara, but a bolognase, that's something that needs to go low and slow all day.
Second day is always the best. Yeah, I know.
Absolutely. Yeah. So cooking's been kind of my unwind, and just it's time I can spend with the family. Kids are in the kitchen, and my little one, he's 2. He's got a little kitchen, and he's got these little pans. He bangs around. He comes over as I'm cooking. He comes over and brings me a pan. I pretend to reach in and eat the food, and so it's good.
Hey, look, I had so much fun. Please come back on the show. Get on some of our town hall panels.
I've listened to these podcasts for years now, and I never thought I'd have anything worthy of discussing on here, but I'm glad you invited me. I'm appreciative of the opportunity.
Let me give you my worthy rating. This was a 9.75. It was so good.
Wow.
It would be a 10 if the listener takes this stuff and does something with it. I know we're going to hear feedback on it. Thank you, Carm, to have Anthony on to give me a kick in the ass, because you've been there and done that. You struggled. You turned it around. You have exciting things ahead of you. Your head's screwed on so incredibly tight.
Thank you.
Because you're a white-gloved perfectionist. And God, if you were closer, that's where I'd be taking my car.
I appreciate that, and we would do a good job for you.
Thank you, man. Appreciate
One thing I have to say for people is the advice is it's overwhelming. When you start looking at, number one, you can't compare yourself to other shops. You have to compare yourself with where you were and your shop was yesterday and last year. So that's your only competition. That's your comparison.
Yeah.
Forget what everybody else is doing. But look at where you want to be or where you think you can be. And you got to take small bites. Just break it down. And that's why a coach is helpful, because they can really, it can seem so overwhelming in the beginning. And I was overwhelmed. And I think that's one of the really important things that Cecil did for me, was kind of, after he told me all the reasons why we're terrible, kind of calmed me down and said, this is fixable. You're not alone. Like this, everybody goes through this. So we're going to fix this little by little. It's going to take you a couple of years and it's going to be fine. Don't look at it like it's this huge, tomorrow I've got to go in and fix my shop and turn it around. It's impossible. You're going to get overwhelmed.
Did you believe?
I did. I believed from day one. Once I met him and once I started seeing what other guys were doing, I believed that with the head start I already had and the product that we had, because I knew we had the right product, I knew we had the right people. I just knew that we needed some help. So I did believe. And once I started seeing results, the further into it I dug and the further into it we went, the more and more I believed. So I believe a lot more now than I did 3 years ago. But I went into this with the belief that we could do it.
And there's nowhere you can't go.
That's right.
Anthony Bodine, Protech Automotive Services, Johnston, Rhode Island.
That's it.
Thanks, bud.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks for being on board to listen and learn from the premier automotive aftermarket podcast. Until next time.